Close your eyes for a moment and let the air of the present slowly fade away. Forget the ticking of digital clocks and the distant sound of traffic. Take a deep breath, then release it slowly. Now, imagine yourself not in the 21st century, but in the heart of an endless land of sand, beneath a sun that never bows. Let us go back to a time where no names are remembered, except the kings who built tombs for their own eternity. You are not a king, of course. You are not even a scribe or a merchant. You are one of the thousands of nameless hands that lift stones. You are a builder, a laborer, a soul born only to sweat beneath the shadow of monuments that do not belong to you. This is not the tale of the glories of ancient Egypt, the one often told to children. It is not a story of gold and incense. It is a story of broken backs, of feet bleeding in the burning sand. We will not speak of pharaohs. We will speak of you, of one day in your life. A day just like the one before, and like those that will come after. A day without meaning, a day that will never be recorded, a day that will never be remembered, a day filled only with dust, orders, and hunger. So calm your body, let this voice guide you. Close your eyes, let us go far into the past. We will spend one day together beneath a sun that never shows mercy, in a world that does not know compassion. Imagine the dawn sneaking in behind the desert, and your stiff body from a cold night having to rise faster than that sun itself. Because if it doesn't, the whip will speak louder than any mouth ever could. Imagine your body slowly twisting awake from a sleep without a bed. There is no pillow. Only a thin mat woven from old papyrus, scratchy and cold at night, damp in the morning. The floor is made of earth, hardened by time and the footsteps of other laborers who are also rising one by one. Silently, without words, without greetings. They rise like ghosts who already know their fate. A new day is not good news. It only means the previous one failed to kill you. In the corner of the cramped room, a clay pot holds water, but only a mouthful remains from the night before. You drink it, though it tastes of metal and mud. Outside, the sound of whips begins even before the light fully arrives. The overseers wake earlier, always earlier. They do not need reasons to punish. They only need to see you late, or standing too long, or complaining, or breathing too loudly. There is no place for pain, no time for protest. You stand and wrap your body in a thin cloth, not to shield from the cold or heat, but simply to hide from shame. You own nothing but that cloth, and even that can be stolen if you're not careful. Outside the barracks, the world is no kinder. Sand sticks to your feet from the first step. The morning wind brings no coolness, only dust that stings the eyes. There is no breakfast. There never is. You might hope for a leftover dried bean in the corner of the barracks. But of course, there is none. Your stomach no longer protests. It gave up long ago. You walk toward the worksite, far, very far. The heavy stones you must lift are already waiting, like beasts that are never full. Every day is the same. Lift, push, pull, fall, rise again. Sometimes a foot is crushed. Sometimes a hand bleeds, but no one stops, because no one cares. the sky begins to pale as your heavy steps reach the work site. In the distance, the skeleton of an unfinished temple looms. The shadow of stone towers rises like dead teeth from the mouth of the earth. Their dust dances with the sound of shouting. No one speaks. There are only commands. Pull, push, lift, unload. Your body does not belong to you. It has been taken by a duty older than your own life. In this place, the ground holds no stories. It only absorbs blood and sweat. Your hands grip the rough rope, pulling alongside 6 or 7 other men. The stone does not care who pulls it. It only knows weight. One of the men stumbles. No one helps. If he dies, there will be no record. No name, he will be replaced. Like a broken beam, replaced and forgotten. Heat begins to pour from above like thick liquid. There is no shade. The cloth against your skin is already soaked, then dry, then soaked again. Your skin turns pale, then cracks. Sometimes wounds rot. There is no time to clean them. Some choose to lick their wounds if they can reach them. There is no medicine. No time to complain. Above, the sound of the whip is rhythm. It does not sing. It does not chant. It only strikes. Slow workers feel it more often. There is no mercy, not even from the sky. The sun only watches, never offering relief. It witnesses the bodies shrinking from exhaustion. In between the labor, sometimes a corpse is dragged away quietly, pulled like a dirty sack. There is no ceremony. Only dust wraps its departure. You keep pulling the rope, and the stone keeps moving, slowly like a final breath. Break time comes like an illusion. There is no clock to measure it, only the slow movement of the sun overhead. When the overseer decides the moment is right, you are allowed to sit not for comfort, but so you do not collapse. Your body meets the hot ground, and your sweat creates patterns on the dust. Your hands tremble, not from fear, but because your muscles refuse to keep working. Food arrives as cold porridge, scooped from a clay container touched by many hands. It tastes like salty mud, and the sour smell of spoiled grain makes you want to vomit. But your stomach does not care. It wants content. So you swallow the porridge as if swallowing a curse. Beside you, an old man coughs endlessly. His breathing is heavy and wheezing. Foam collects on his lips. No one turns to look. He might die tonight, maybe tomorrow. It does not matter. In this place, death makes no sound. It comes in silence, then leaves like a gust of desert wind. Some of you have infected wounds. Pus oozes out and flies nest inside. They live off your bodies. When the break ends, the whip sings again. Not a song, but a threat. You rise slowly, legs like wooden posts. In silence, the workers return to lifting stones. They do not speak to each other. They are too familiar with loss. A friend from yesterday can vanish today. No one asks, no ceremony. Only the labor remains, labor with no end, like sand that always returns after being swept away. Each day is a repetition of the one before. There is no promise of heaven, no grandeur. The pharaoh who ordered this may not even remember who built it. He will be buried in splendor, but your bones will be lost among ruins and time. Time passes without surprise. The sky shifts from pale blue to bright red, then fades into orange and gray. The day nears its end, but the work does not stop. Shadows stretch across the sand, and bodies still bend between the stones. In the distance, the sound of whips and quiet screams echo like a repeating song of pain. No one runs, no one fights. Only resignation spreads like fog. Between the cracks in the stone, there is a finger bone lodged. Perhaps it belonged to someone who wasn't retrieved in time. No one digs, to be sure. In this place, leftover bodies are part of the ground. Children sometimes join the labor, carrying water jars or collecting stone shards. Their hands are small, but their eyes are already old. No laughter. They've learned early that this world was not made for them. The air grows heavier. Dust floats in the wind, mixed with the stench of sweat and rotting wounds. Some workers cough up blood, yet they stay in line. They know that stopping means punishment. It's not just the whip, but possibly being buried alive as a warning to others. Night falls. The sun sinks behind the line of sand, leaving a red sky like an open wound. The overseer strikes a metal gong. Then you know your time is up. Not because the work is done, but because the light has ended. Your body moves slowly back to the barracks, dusty bedding with torn mats and a pillow made from sacks. There is no water to bathe. Only a small bowl of stale water to share among 3 people. The stench of bodies clings like a curse. No one talks, only groans. The walls echo with coughs and heavy breathing. This is not a home. This is a cage for humans. But no one screams. No one rebels. Because in this world, silence is the most honest way to survive. Night in the desert is not a refreshing coolness. It comes cold, piercing, like a silent grudge. The wind strikes the mud walls of the barracks, bringing dust and fragments of lives once lived. You curl up, your body wrapped in a thin cloth that holds no warmth. Your breath rises in mist like a starving ghost. There is no light, only a pale moon occasionally peeking through the clouds, casting skeletal shapes on the floor. Sleep is not comfort. It is a necessity to keep the body barely functioning for the next day. Dreams do not come, and if they do, they are echoes of a worse day. Outside the barrack, a stray dog barks briefly before going silent, perhaps chewing something thrown out from the overseer's kitchen. Inside, snores mix with coughs. Some people mutter in their sleep, calling their mothers, but no one responds. The barracks are not for affection. This is a waiting room for ruin. The night moves slowly. Time seems to fall asleep, frozen in every crack of the wall. You hear everything. Nails scratching skin, feet shifting. The soft rustle of rats coming too close. They know you will not move. Your body is too tired even for fear. Your chest feels heavy. This is not just muscle fatigue, but the depletion of soul. No one is coming to save you. No name will be carved for you. You are not a builder of glory, only a gap filler easily replaced. Then the night fades, slowly, like a wound that never truly heals. And before the dawn breaks, you are up again, not by strength, but by command. There is no morning prayer, only heavy steps toward the same day, with the same pain, in a world that remembers no one. Imagine stepping out of the barracks before the sun rises. The air is not yet hot, but your body is already sweating. In the distance, lines of men begin to move like an endless stream of ants. There is no conversation. Only breath, footsteps, and the sound of sand being crushed by worn-out sandals. Ahead of you, the silhouette of an unfinished pyramid greets you like a nightmare that never leaves. The air feels heavier near that structure. Everything is dull yellow, brown, and gray. There is no other color in this world, except blood and clay. You head toward your usual work spot. Today, your task is to lift stone blocks from the sand dock to the slope of the mound. You know it makes no sense. Your body was not made for this, but who cares? You are paid in bread and salty water, and even that can be withheld if the overseer is in a bad mood. Within moments, your back is weighed down by familiar pain. Your hands thicken from old wounds that never close, and the sun has not yet fully risen. You lift and walk, return and lift again. There is no exact count, no final goal. Sometimes you want to count how many times you go up and down that artificial hill. But for what? No one keeps track. No one cares. Sweat drips and mixes with dust, forming mud on your skin. Sometimes sand enters your wounds and you pretend not to feel it. Someone nearby collapses, and only two people look. One is the overseer, the other, a friend too tired to care. The one who falls stays silent, then slowly crawls again. There is no time for compassion. You and everyone else know that if you stop too long, the whip will speak faster than any mouth. You just keep moving in a rhythm dictated by hopelessness. Every step is an admission that you have no choice. In the noon that knows no shadows, your steps begin to falter. The sun feels like an angry god staring directly at your skin, burning slowly and without mercy. There is no shelter, no time to stop. The heat makes you slow, and slowing makes you visible, and being visible means punishment. So you keep moving. Your shoulders feel like they will come out of their sockets, and your knees like ropes about to snap at any moment. The overseers do not see faces. They only see movement. Who is slow? Who stops? Who tries to sit without permission? Round you, human bodies walk like shadows. Empty eyes, mouths open without sound. Sometimes someone laughs alone, as if unaware that the world still hurts. Sometimes someone cries quietly, not out of sadness, but because the body no longer knows how to resist. Their tears mixed with sweat. Today's food is only 2 pieces of bread as hard as stone and a bowl of thin porridge. That is, if your portion is not stolen when you are not looking. You sit on a stone when the short break comes. Mealtime is not a time of peace. It is a time to scramble, to suspect, to watch who tries to take more. Around you, there are no true friends. Everyone is equally thirsty, hungry, and threatened. Some hold slices of onion or scraps of salted fish from last night. Some chew with hands full of wounds. There is not a single taste of pleasure, but your body eats anyway. Because if it does not, tomorrow morning you may not wake up. Some workers choose not to eat, so their ration can go to their smaller child, who also works mixing mud not far from here. This world does not allow space for pity. This world only moves forward atop bodies that are slowly breaking. As the midday slowly slides into dusk, the color of the sky shifts from burning blue to dusty orange. There is no luxury in sunset here, only a sign that the labor will soon be replaced by a quieter kind of pain. Returning to the barracks is a short journey, but every step feels like walking through thorns. Bare feet touch sand that has lost its heat but still holds wounds. The smell of sweat, blood, and human waste has become part of the air you breathe every day. The barracks are not a place of rest. They are narrow rooms packed with weary bodies breathing heavily. There are no mattresses, only dirt that sometimes feels harder than stone. The walls are made of dried mud. The roof leaks when it rains, and the door is just a tattered curtain that cannot muffle the sound of coughing or crying. You enter and search for empty space, maybe wide enough to stretch your legs, but not enough for peaceful sleep. In the corner, an old man sits quietly, his forehead covered in open wounds. He used to be a carver, he says, but 2 of his fingers are now missing. He can no longer work, which means he does not get food unless someone gives him some. Some young workers sleep while hugging small stones, saying they are charms to keep bad dreams away. Some just sit and stare blankly at the wall, trying to remember a home they can no longer picture. There is no talk of the future, no grand dreams. Only bodies waiting to be called again tomorrow morning, and a small hope that tonight they do not die in their sleep. Night arrives without wind, no chirping insects, no gentle breeze to soothe. Only silence pressed down by heavy breathing and the occasional sob from the corner of the room. Outside, the sky is dusted with stars, but no one has the time or strength to look up. Among the still bodies, itching spreads, not from curiosity, but from lice and small wounds that never heal. Some try to sleep sitting up, because lying down makes breathing harder. The desert night air can pierce the bones, but not enough to make you shiver. Instead, the slow, creeping cold makes you forget you're still alive. In the dark, coughs echo, long and drawn out, as if lungs are trying to cough up sand. On some nights, someone simply stops breathing. There is no scream. Just one more body that won't rise with the morning. No ceremony, no burial ground. Only a shallow pit outside the barrack and a small stone placed above it. Tomorrow still comes. The sun will still shine. Sweat will still pour. The world does not stop just because one more body has returned to dust. This is the rhythm of a life built for someone else's glory. No one will remember your name. There will be no carving to honor the fingers that lifted that stone. History remembers the pyramids, not the hands that died building them. Morning comes like a punishment, repeated. No bells, no gentle sounds. Only harsh yelling and the pounding of feet against the ground. Those too slow to rise are pulled or dragged. Time belongs to the rulers, not to you. There's no warm breakfast, just thin porridge made from hard grains that sometimes still contain bits of stone. If you're lucky, there's a drop of honey, but that is rare. More often, it's the bitter taste of dust swallowed with the dregs. Children too young to carry stones are made to sweep or mix mud, their faces already like old men, sunken eyes and furrowed brows. In the distance, the structure they call a temple begins to take shape. But no one here calls it beautiful, because those who build it know that beauty is only seen by those who never dig. The sound of the whip is the day's metronome. It doesn't always strike, but it's always there. A reminder that your margin of error is small, and that pain is just one method of order. Sometimes, those who collapse from exhaustion don't rise again. And if you don't rise, you become part of the ground being built. There's no time for pity. Even death loses meaning here. It doesn't come as an ending, but as an uninvited pause. The midday air is not just hot. It is a wall you cannot pass through. Breathing grows thin, your chest heavy, and your eyes sting from the light reflecting off pale stones. Sweat flows before you even lift a tool. And the tool itself is rough, made of metal that is often blunt, tied to a wooden handle that begins to crack. There are no gloves, no helmets, just your skin, burning ever darker. Massive stones must be shifted using ropes and wooden frames that demand the strength of many hands. Those who give orders rarely lift anything, simply point and count, sometimes adding a whispered threat. Ropes often snap, and when they do, the crushed bodies are unrecognizable. But the work does not stop. The dead are dragged aside and replaced, as if the body is a tool to be bought, used, and discarded. In between tasks, sometimes there is a short chant repeated like a prayer. Not a joyful song, but a kind of spell to endure pain. You learn to let your fingers bleed. You learn to let your wounds stay open. If disease spreads, it's not news. It's just a new routine. There are no doctors, only herbs, and sometimes prayers from a mother left in a far-off village. But prayers do not reach this place. Here, only labor is heard, and only results are measured. As the sun begins to lean westward, the shadows of unfinished structures stretch long across the sand. But this is not a signal for rest. It is the heaviest time for your back and palms. Because the light starts to deceive, and stone appears softer than it is, you begin to make small mistakes, striking the wrong spot, stacking uneven by a few degrees. And in this place, mistakes are not forgiven by time. A misplaced stone can kill someone by morning. So the overseers watch more sharply than before. No one dares speak. Even footsteps become more careful. Sometimes there is a groan from someone struck by a falling tool or who simply collapses because his knees give out. But those cries fade quickly. No one helps. Every hand is needed for labor, not for cradling the fallen. So the fallen are left behind. They will stand again on their own, or remain where they are until the shift ends. Exhaustion slows every movement. And then, Even time seems to move slower than usual. 1 hour feels like 2, and 2 feels like forever. Sweat has dried on your skin, leaving salty trails like crust on stone. Flies begin to circle your open wounds, and your body feels like cracked earth waiting for rain that never comes. But the sky remains blue, without mercy, without compassion. No cloud arrives to cover it, and no wind is strong enough to bring news from any other world. When the sun sits low and the sky turns a dull copper red, a long whistle echoes from the scaffolding above. It is not a call of triumph. It is simply the signal that today's labor has ended and nothing more. No cheers, no smiles. Just bodies that slowly stop, then stand still for a moment like statues overcome with weariness. Some lift their tools and stash them in cracks of stone or in worn cloth sacks. Others simply begin the slow walk down the path they've tread every day without hope. Feet drag, heads hang. No one speaks, because even the energy to speak has long been spent. Along the path back to the barracks, dust rises gently, forming a thin veil that clings to faces and necks still damp with dried sweat. This is the quietest hour of the day, not because there is nothing to say, but because no one wants to repeat the suffering that has just been endured. In the distance, the sounds of the workers' camp begin to drift. The crying of hungry children, the shouts of wives angry at empty pots, and the wooden clack of the ration guard handing out thin gruel and hard bread. But you're not there yet. Your body is still walking, slowly, carrying the weight of a day best left unremembered. And in your chest, it's not just exhaustion that grows, it's emptiness. A hollow that forms when hope stops growing, but the body still moves as if purpose remained. That is what's left of these builders. Not pride, not honor, just motion without meaning. As night creeps in and the sky fades into a grayish-purple curtain scraped by pale stars, you finally arrive at the barracks. Low Medan straw buildings pressed tightly against one another, separated by narrow alleys barely wide enough for a single person to pass sideways. The air is thick with the stench of old sweat, spoiled meat, and festering wounds. That smell never leaves. It seeps into the walls. It clings to clothing. It weaves itself into your sleep. Inside the barracks, there are no beds. It's just a dirt floor hardened by thousands of feet, layered with tattered mats that sometimes harbor lice. On one side of the room, an old man coughs endlessly until liquid gurgles in his chest. On the other side, 2 small children try to share a piece of bread gone black, picking at crumbs with their thin fingers. There is no light except for a small oil lamp whose flame flickers constantly, as if uncertain whether to stay alive. You sit in a corner, your knees drawn to your chest. Your arms wrapped around yourself, not for warmth, but to hold your form together so it doesn't fall apart. You speak to no one. Not because you dislike them, but because all your words have already been used inside your own mind. A mind filled with dust, heat, stone, and the crack of whips. Here, life is not preserved because it is beautiful. Life is preserved because it has not yet vanished. And this barrack, this dry sleeping floor, is the only place in the world that welcomes you unconditionally. Not with love, but with a silent agreement. If you are still breathing, you may stay here tonight. The night in Egypt is not silent. It is filled with heavy snores, unfinished whispers, restless footsteps scraping the dirt floor, and occasional cries from someone jolted awake by a nightmare or a rat bite. Outside, the night air offers no relief. The heat of the day still clings to the mud brick walls, making the room feel like a sealed oven. The sky is visible through cracks in the roof, but even the stars look weary, as if ashamed to witness the suffering below. Sometimes, the sound of wooden carts being pulled toward the main construction site breaks through. They never stop entirely. Even when people sleep, the temple must continue to rise. There are walls that must be finished before the flood season arrives. There are pillars that must be raised before the high officials come to inspect. In the dark, a dog howls from afar, perhaps hungry, perhaps simply angry at a moon that offers no food. Near your foot, a cockroach crawls slowly. No one swats it away. It is not a guest. It has lived here longer than most workers. In this darkness, you learn to recognize sounds with your eyes closed. You know who cries in silence. You know who sleeps with their mouth open. And you know that if you ever hear perfect stillness, it is not peace. It is the sign that someone may no longer be breathing. When dawn breaks, it is not the soft pink seen in romantic paintings. It arrives as a yellow haze carrying dust, brushing against windows that were never sealed, clinging to skin like a thin layer of exhaustion. The birds are not singing yet. They know the sun does not bring hope, only duty. As usual, you wake not because you've slept enough, but because your body can no longer lie still. Your back is stiff, your arms feel heavy, and your head feels filled with sand. The sour smell of straw blankets clings to your neck. Around you, sounds begin to rise. A cough from the old man at the far end of the room. Mumbled complaints from a young man who had a nightmare. Some are already sitting up, chewing bread as hard as stone, dipped briefly in water just to make it biteable. That bread is made of barley and sand, not by choice, but because the grains are ground with stone and tiny fragments mix in. It is not rare to spit blood after a sharp piece wounds your gums, but you eat anyway. You must. Outside, large stones are already waiting. The day's work has been awake since the night. And there is no mercy for those who come late, even if they are sick or bleeding. You rise slowly, wrap yourself in a thin cloth that serves as both clothing and shield from the heat, and step outside into a world that promises nothing but continuation. The sky above is not blue. 'Tis pale, like a wall once painted and now abandoned by time. The air is not fresh. It is filled with dust, tiny particles from the stone mountains endlessly gnawed by human hands. In the distance, a line of men begins to walk. They are moving shadows. No cheerful voices, no idle talk. Only footsteps and drawn breaths. Some of them cough blood, but still they walk. Others are far too young, but no one notices. You follow them, not because you want to, but because the path is the only direction left. You know what waits. Walls as tall as trees, stones heavy as oxen, and the occasional sound of a whip cracking even when it does not strike a back. Today is like the day before, and there is no reason to believe it will be better. At the foot of the hill, the overseers already stand. They do not speak much. They only point and mark who arrives late, who looks weak, who begins to show signs of uselessness. Here, weakness is not a mistake. It is a sentence. Because your body is the only tool you possess. And when it breaks, there is no place for you anymore. But not today. Today you can still lift the stone, still move the sand. So you walk, and you work, and you stay silent. Behind the stone walls being built lies a colorless crowd. Slaves, masons, haulers, and young boys are all blended together. There is no boundary between age and strength. Anyone who can lift, push, or drag something will be given a place. In the corner of the worksite, an old man sits, leaned against a stone block, his breath heavy, his sweat mingled with dust. No one turns to look. He is already on the edge of uselessness, and in a matter of days, he may be discarded from the ranks. Beside him, a boy no older than 10 pulls on a rope tied to a beam. His tiny muscles are taut, his eyes hollow, as if life only means pulling and pulling until all fades away. There is no noise here, only the thump of burdens, the sound of stone dragged across sand, and sometimes a scream swallowed by the blazing sun. You stand among them, looking at those walls. Sacred structure, they say. For life after death, they say. But for those who build it, no heaven awaits. Only shortening days and bodies that weaken with each passing hour. Every stone lifted is a year taken from a lifespan. There is no reward, no remembered name. No one even knows who built that great temple. Only the Pharaoh's name is carved at the top, and thousands of nameless bodies buried beneath. Evening arrives like a slow creeping fog, colorless, windless. But it brings no coolness, only a shift in the tone of the sky that slowly fades from blinding white to weary yellow. You can feel your skin still burning, though the sun begins to sink. Those who are still working do not slow their motions. There are no working hours to end only darkness that will later force a pause. In the distance, a whip cracks through the air, perhaps striking a back that moved too slowly, or just a harsh sound to warn against idleness. A man coughs up blood as he drags the last load of the day. His blood falls into the sand, vanishing quickly, as if the body is not allowed to protest for long. No one helps him. He knows that if he falls, it means he won't return tomorrow. He knows this because he's seen others before. Everyone has seen it, but no one speaks of it. You follow the steps of those walking home. Feet dragging, hands limp, faces void of expression. There is no chatter, no complaint. Even silence is too costly. They walk back to the small huts on the edge of the camp, where the body rests but does not live. Where there is no warm food, only coarse bread dough split evenly. Even water is rationed, sometimes tasting like sand on the tongue. That is where the night waits. And they know their bodies must endure, because tomorrow morning the stone will still be waiting. The night in the camp is never truly dark. Not because there is light, but because the eyes have grown used to dimness. Torches are rarely lit. The oil is too precious. So they eat in twilight, sitting side by side in silence. Now and then, a cough or a heavy sigh breaking the stillness. The bread, hard like stone, is soaked in water to soften it into a mush. There is no flavor but salt and dryness. Sometimes, tiny bones from small animals find their way into the dough, but no one removes them. You sit among them, saying nothing. You just chew and swallow like they do. A small child sleeps with his head in his mother's lap, his body so thin it folds like cloth. The mother stares forward blankly, perhaps thinking of tomorrow, or perhaps thinking of nothing at all. On the mud wall of the hut, there are small marks scratched in. Tallies of days. Some have faded with dust. No one really knows how long they have been here. Perhaps the tallies aren't to remember, but to keep from forgetting that time still moves. Outside, the wind carries a sour stench from waste thrown carelessly. Sometimes it creeps through cracks in the roof. You curl into a corner, your body clinging to the cold earth. There is no pillow, only your own arms. No warmth, only exhaustion covering sensation. Flies still come, even after night has fallen. There is no place free from them, and when everything is silent, one sound becomes clearest. The sound of a stomach growling, asking for more, but knowing it will never receive it. You wake before dawn. Not because you want to, but because everyone else wakes, and silence that lingers too long stirs unease. The air is still cold. Your body feels sticky, itchy from sand and sweat that haven't been washed away. There is no water for bathing. Even rinsing your face is a luxury. You wipe your eyes with the edge of your cloth, then stand. There are no shoes. Bare feet have become normal. The soles of your feet are thick and cracked, but still sting when stepping on sharp stones. An old man beside you coughs up blood. He says nothing, just leans against the wall, staring at the unopened sky. No one asks how he is. There is no time for pity. You walk with the others. Long steps toward the stone. There is no breakfast, only leftover bread from last night, torn into small pieces and chewed slowly to make it last longer. Some eat nothing at all. They just drink from the shared water jars. No one speaks. All know where they are headed. In the distance, the sky begins to change color, but it is not a beautiful golden, only ash turning into pale red. The morning wind carries the sound of whips. It is a familiar sound, not meant to frighten, but to command speed. Those who are late or pause too long will feel it, but no one dares to run. Running only drains energy faster. So they step, like beasts of burden, one by one, in deep silence. Amid the hanging dust and the sound of feet scraping over dry ground, you see the looming shadow of the pyramid wall. Unfinished, never finished. Every day you come and touch the same stone. You and those who stand around you are just part of a current that never asks where it flows. Atop that stone platform, a foreman stands with a staff. He doesn't speak much. His eyes are enough. They understand his signals. If you move too slowly, a flick of the hand means a strike on your back. If you speak without permission, A sharp glare means a night without food. There is no attendance list, only presence. If you don't come, you may be dead or ill, and that doesn't matter. Someone else will replace you. You and the stone, equal things. Hard, mute, easily replaced. In the distance, faint singing drifts from another group. A slow rhythm, like a prayer or lament wrapped in labor. These songs are not for joy, but for synchronizing motion. Each stone is pulled together. The ropes cut into hands, making wounds that never heal. If someone falls, they do not stop. A fallen body just becomes part of the dust. That day is like the one before. Nothing changes. No progress is felt. Only the measure of suffering differs depending on whom you ask, and no one wants to be asked. Everyone only wants night to come sooner. As dusk approaches, the color of the sky slowly shifts, not dramatically. Just a subtle slide from white to orange, then to weary gray. There is no wind, but the dust still moves, as if pulled by unresolved memories. You sit leaning against a mud wall, your joints trembling slightly. One hand presses your swollen calf, the other wipes your sunburnt forehead. Dinner doesn't arrive with gratitude. It arrives as obligation. A bowl of thin porridge, more water than substance. Sometimes there are bean seeds. Sometimes there is nothing. You don't choose. Nothing is yours to choose. Around you, dozens of bodies sit in silence. They don't speak to each other. Voices were spent earlier in the day. What remains are empty stares to the ground, the sky, or anything that does not demand reply. If someone coughs, no one looks. Coughing is not unusual. It is background noise. You know someone in your row will die in a few days. Everyone knows, including that person, but no one speaks of it. Death doesn't arrive like in stories. It brings no drama or tears. It simply comes like fading evening light. Soundless, ceremonieless. Sometimes without burial. Some are just buried in sand, not deep. Just enough so the body won't rot in the sleeping space. That evening, you only hope not to dream badly tonight. But even a hope like that feels luxurious. Night in the stonemason's camp is not a silent night. There is no sacred quiet to soothe the mind. Instead, it is a time when small sounds creep from the darkness. The soft shriek of aching joints, labored, held breaths, quiet sobs not meant to be heard by anyone. Outside the hut, the sand stirs in the dark, moved by insects, rats, or spirits of those who never made it home. Sometimes a stray dog scavenges for bone scraps near the kitchen or barks at shadows only it can see. The lantern light is nearly gone. You know you must sleep, but your body is more familiar with fatigue than with rest. Sleep is not a pause. It is simply a brief unconsciousness. In the dark, the bodies lie pressed against one another. There is no space for gentle dreams. Only the false warmth of walls still holding the sun's heat. Sometimes someone mumbles in their sleep, calling out the name of a mother or a child long dead. No one comforts them. No one embraces them. Only more murmurs from others sleep, that is never truly deep. This is not the last night, and not the worst. But it is enough to remind you that tomorrow will come bringing the same things, the same stone, the same scorching heat, the same silent screams in a heart that never had time to speak. Imagine waking up again the next morning, the air still thick with the scent of last night's sweat. Your chest feels heavy, not from the weight of labor, but from the knowledge that everything must be repeated again. The sun has not yet fully risen, but bodies are already moving. Some simply sit still, staring at the ground as if hoping the sand might offer a way out. Others massage stiff legs, hands, or backs. There is no warm morning chatter, only snores that haven't quite faded and coughing that tears from lungs filled with dust. You wash your face with water that looks more like mud. No soap, no fragrance. Only the awareness that your skin must be cleaned enough not to stick under the coming sun. You bite into a hard loaf of bread whose age is uncertain. Sometimes it hides a small insect. It doesn't matter. They might even add flavor. Your stomach does not demand delicacy. It only wants to be filled, so it doesn't howl through the day. No prayers, no loud hopes, only breaths taken heavily. The day has not begun, but your soul already feels old. As midday arrives, the heat peaks and the day feels as if it stands still. The light falling on the ground is no longer just sunshine, but an invisible whip that scorches the skin. You walk home with trembling legs, not because the journey is long, but because hope has long since died within you. Home is not a place of comfort, only a pile of mud and straw shaped like a narrow cave. The air inside is hotter than outside. Mosquitoes circle your head. The smell of bodies and old sweat clings to the walls like memories unwilling to leave. You sit down, not to relax, but because you can no longer stand. The children fall asleep first, not from fullness, but because hunger makes their eyes heavy. You watch them quietly, then stare at the ceiling, which sometimes collapses when the rain comes at night. But tonight is dry. The sky is dark without stars, as if the gods refuse to look back. In the distance, night animals whisper like the voice of the earth. You lie down, your body aching but too tired to speak. Then slowly your eyes close, not from peace, but because this day is finally over. And behind your eyelids, you do not dream of pyramids, nor of glory. You only hope tomorrow is no heavier than today. Sleep now. The world keeps spinning, but for you, night is the only time free from stone, from whips, from voices that never call your name. Sleep in a silence that offers no comfort. Your time is over, but your duty is not. Tomorrow, you will rise again. Even shadows seem reluctant to appear, as there is no place cool enough to hide. You work in a silence that feels almost sacred, not because of peace, but because everyone is too exhausted to speak. The sound of hammer meeting stone echoes like a prayer sent into an empty sky, hoping to be heard by gods who may have long turned away. Around noon, some bodies collapse. They are not rushed to healers. There are no stretchers or cries. They are simply lifted aside and left lying in the dust. If they wake again, it is luck. If not, then the earth receives them quietly. The midday meal is no celebration, only an extension of existence. Thin gruel and scraps even dogs might hesitate to touch. There is no time to sit long, no extended rest, just enough to swallow and return to stone. The wind that passes does not cool, only carries flecks of sand and the scent of bodies slowly burning. And through it all, you keep walking, because there is no other way. As dusk falls, the sky slowly shifts from blinding white to a muddy orange that rolls behind pillars of dust.